At a gas station, a black employee helped an elderly man pay for his fuel when the man realized he had forgotten his wallet. His coworker mocked his kindness and falsely accused him of stealing, leading to his termination. Everything seemed to fall apart, but he had no idea that the man he had helped was actually a wealthy CEO. Until that night, the elderly man appeared at his doorstep not just to repay him, but to offer him an opportunity that would change his life forever. Before we dive in this story, let us know where you're watching from. We love to hear your thoughts. The afternoon sun hung low over Atlanta, Georgia, casting long shadows across the worn pavement of a small gas station on the outskirts of town. The heat clung to the air, thick and unrelenting, mixing with the sharp scent of gasoline and asphalt. The station was bustling. Cars pulling in and out, engines humming, impatient customers honking at slow-moving lines. Among the attendants weaving between the pumps was Jordan Carter, a 30-year-old black man whose uniform, though slightly faded, was neatly pressed. His strong hands, calloused from years of hard work, moved quickly and efficiently, filling tanks, wiping windshields, and offering quick nods to customers who barely acknowledged his presence. For Jordan, this job was more than just a paycheck, it was his lifeline. With a mother battling arthritis and a young daughter who needed him, every hour on the clock mattered. The long shifts, the exhaustion, the disrespect from customers who saw him as nothing more than a faceless worker in a name tag. None of it compared to the fear of not being able to provide for his family. He had been in tough spots before, and he had learned one thing: you do what you have to do to survive. Just as he finished wiping down the windshield of an old pickup, he heard a commotion near Pump 4. He turned, spotting an elderly man standing beside a dark blue sedan, his weathered hands patting down his pockets, his face etched with growing panic. "Damn it!" the man muttered under his breath, checking his glove compartment, then his coat pockets again. "I swear I had it." A voice cut through the tense air. "Sir, if you don't have the money, that's not my problem." Jordan frowned, his eyes flickering toward the source of the voice. Tyler, a lanky, sharp-jawed attendant who had been working at the station for the past year. Tyler was leaning against the pump, arms crossed, his expression one of pure impatience. "I just need a moment," the old man said, his voice edged with embarrassment. "I must have left my wallet at home. I live just a few blocks away. I can come right back." Tyler let out a dry laugh, shaking his head. "Yeah, right. You expect me to believe that? Look, I've been working here long enough to know a scam when I see one. Either you pay or I call the cops. Simple as that." The old man's face paled. He opened his mouth as if to argue, then hesitated. Jordan could see it. The humiliation sinking in. The helplessness of being accused like some common thief. That was all he needed. Without thinking twice, Jordan stepped forward, brushing past Tyler as he approached the old man. "Sir, it's all right," he said, his tone calm, reassuring. "You don't have to explain yourself." Tyler scoffed. "Oh, come on, Jordan. Don't be an idiot. This guy's probably pulled this stunt before. You really gonna let him play you like that?" Jordan ignored him. He reached into his pocket, pulled out his wallet, and counted out a crisp $20 bill. He handed it to Tyler without hesitation. "Take this, that cover it?" Tyler stared at the money, then at Jordan, his lips curling into a smirk. "You want to waste your own money? Be my guest." He snatched the bill from Jordan's hand, stuffing it into the register before shaking his head. "You're too soft, man. People like him see guys like you and think easy target. You'll learn one day." Jordan's jaw tightened, but he didn't take the bait. Instead, he turned back to the old man, who was staring at him, eyes slightly wet with emotion. "I don't know what to say," the man said, his voice thick. Nobody does things like this anymore." Jordan offered a small, tired smile. "Don't worry about it. We all forget things sometimes." The old man hesitated for a moment, then reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, slightly crumpled piece of paper. He scribbled something onto it. "A name, an address, and a phone number." "At least let me pay you back," he said, pressing the note into Jordan's hand. "My name's Samuel Whitmore. I promise I'll make this right." Jordan glanced at the paper, then back at Samuel, nodding. "Take care, Mr. Whitmore." As the elderly man drove off, Jordan felt the weight of Tyler's stare on his back. "You think that was a good move?" Tyler muttered, arms still crossed. "Guy's probably laughing right now, driving off with your money." Jordan exhaled slowly, shaking his head. "And if he's not?" Tyler didn't answer. He just scoffed again, giving Jordan one last look before turning away. Jordan tucked the note into his pocket and went back to work. Jordan barely had time to process what had just happened before his name was called over the intercom. The station's old, crackling speaker system carried a voice that he instantly recognized. Frank Mitchell, the manager. "Joy office. Now." The sharpness in Frank's tone made the hairs on the back of Jordan's neck rise. He exchanged a glance with Tyler, who smirked as if he had been expecting this. "Told you, man," Tyler said with a shake of his head. "You play hero, you get burned." Jordan clenched his jaw but didn't respond. He wiped his hands on his uniform, exhaled slowly, and made his way toward the small, dimly lit office at the back of the station. Inside, Frank was already waiting, seated behind a cluttered desk stacked with paperwork and old receipts. His thinning hair was combed back neatly, and his expression was unreadable, a mix of irritation and forced professionalism. As Jordan stepped in, Frank didn't bother looking up right away. He tapped a pen against the desk, flipping through a few sheets of paper before finally speaking. "Shut the door." Jordan did as he was told, standing stiffly near the chair in front of Frank's desk, though he knew better than to sit unless invited. After a long silence, Frank finally sighed, looking up with a weary expression. "You want to tell me what happened out there?" Jordan kept his face neutral. "An elderly man forgot his wallet after refueling. I covered the cost with my own money." Frank leaned back in his chair, raising an eyebrow. "With your own money?" "Yes, sir." Frank nodded slowly, almost as if he was considering letting it go. But then he slid a piece of paper across the desk toward Jordan. It was a formal write-up slip. Jordan's stomach dropped. "Look," Frank said, rubbing his temple. "I get it, you think you did the right thing. Maybe you did. But this isn't about being a good guy, Jordan. This is about company policy. We don't let people leave without paying. We don't take money out of the register to cover customers, and we sure as hell don't play charity on the clock." Jordan's eyes narrowed. "I didn't take money from the register." Frank glanced at the slip dismissively. Tyler said otherwise. A sharp frustration flared in Jordan's chest. Tyler's lying. Frank shrugged. "Maybe, maybe not, but I have to go with what I have, and right now I have a witness saying you took company money to cover a customer's bill." Jordan's hands curled into fists at his sides, but he forced himself to stay calm. "I can check the register with you right now. Every cent will be there." Frank sighed again, like he was dealing with a child who didn't understand simple instructions. "Jordan, it's not about the money. It's about setting a precedent. If we let this slide, then next time another employee thinks they can do the same. Next thing you know, we have people handing out gas like we're a damn charity." Jordan stared at him, his pulse hammering. "So you're firing me? Over $20? Over a lie?" Frank shook his head, as if disappointed. "I'm firing you because you made a decision that wasn't yours to make." The words hit Jordan like a punch to the gut. He had spent years at this job, never late, never stealing, never causing problems. He had taken every lousy shift, every rude customer, every moment of disrespect, because he needed this paycheck. And now, just like that, he was being thrown away over one moment of kindness. His hands shook slightly as he reached for the paper on the desk, his name already written in bold, corporate ink. "You want me to sign this?" he asked, his voice low. Frank pushed the pen toward him. "It's already done. Signing it won't change anything." Jordan exhaled sharply, staring at the paper for a long moment. Then, without a word, he turned on his heel and walked out of the office. He didn't need to sign anything to know he had just lost everything. Jordan stepped out of the office, his body tense, his mind racing. The noise of the station seemed distant now, the hum of engines, the beep of the register, the chatter of customers. It all blurred into the background. All he could hear was Frank's voice, repeating in his head, "It's already done." His fists clenched at his sides as he made his way back through the station. Tyler was leaning against the counter near the pumps, arms crossed, that smug smirk still plastered on his face. "Damn, man," Tyler said, shaking his head with fake sympathy. Guess being a hero doesn't pay after all, huh? Jordan stopped mid-step, his chest rising and falling with slow, controlled breaths. He wanted to say something, to call Tyler out, to demand why he had lied, but what was the point? Tyler had already won. So Jordan just stared at him for a long second before shaking his head. You know what, Tyler? His voice was calm, almost too calm. One day, you're going to need someone to give you the benefit of the doubt, and when that day comes, I hope you'll remember this moment. Tyler chuckled, pushing off the counter. Yeah, we'll see about that. Jordan didn't bother responding. He turned away, walked to the back room, grabbed his bag, and stepped outside into the fading light of the evening. Just like that, it was over. The walk home felt heavier than usual. Jordan had always taken the bus when he could, but today he needed to walk. He needed the time, the air, the movement, anything to process what had just happened. The streets of Atlanta's West End were alive with the usual evening energy. Cars honking in the distance, the smell of fried food drifting from a corner stand, kids laughing as they rode their bikes down the cracked sidewalks. It was all so normal. But nothing felt normal anymore. He kept moving, adjusting the strap of his work bag on his shoulder, his thoughts spiraling. He had been careful. He had done everything right. For years, Jordan had swallowed his pride, clocked in, clocked out, kept his head down because he had responsibilities. He wasn't some kid who could afford to lose a paycheck over a stupid argument. He had rent to pay, a mother who needed medicine, a daughter who needed school supplies, clothes, food. And now, he had nothing. The weight of it all pressed down on him as he reached the small duplex where he lived. The porch light flickered as he stepped onto the front steps. He took a slow breath before pushing open the door. Inside, the scent of warm cornbread and collard greens filled the air. His mother, Evelyn Carter, sat in her usual chair near the window, her hands resting gently on her lap, the way they always did when her joints ached too much to move freely. Her eyes lifted when she saw him, sharp and knowing. "You're home early." Jordan hesitated just long enough for her expression to shift from curiosity to concern. Before he could answer, a small blur of energy rushed into the room. "Dad." Jordan barely had time to brace himself before Maya, his 8-year-old daughter, crashed into him, wrapping her tiny arms around his waist. "You're home early," she said excitedly, tilting her head back to look up at him. "Does that mean we can go to the park?" Jordan forced a smile, resting a hand on her head. "Not tonight, baby girl." Maya pouted slightly, but didn't argue. She let go and skipped toward the kitchen, completely unaware of the storm brewing inside him. Evelyn, however, wasn't so easily distracted. "Jordan," she said, her voice steady, the way it always was when she knew something was wrong. "What happened?" Jordan exhaled, rubbing a hand over his face before sitting down across from her. He didn't sugarcoat it. He told her everything. The old man, the money, Tyler's lie, Frank's decision. By the time he finished, Evelyn's lips were pressed into a thin line, her hands folded tightly in her lap. For a long moment, she didn't say anything. Then finally, she let out a slow breath. "You did the right thing, Jordan." Jordan let out a dry laugh, shaking his head. "Doing the right thing doesn't pay the bills, Mom." Evelyn tilted her head slightly, watching him. "Maybe not, but it's what makes you the kind of man your daughter can look up to." Jordan swallowed hard, staring down at the worn wooden table. He wished that was enough. But right now all he could think about was how he was going to put food on that very table next week. And as that thought settled into his bones, a sharp knock echoed from the front door. The knock at the door was firm but unhurried, cutting through the quiet tension that had settled over the small living room. Jordan's eyes flickered toward his mother, who arched an eyebrow in silent question. He wasn't expecting anyone. Maya, still twirling around near the kitchen, froze mid-spun. "Dad, are we getting a pizza?" she asked hopefully. Jordan forced a chuckle, pushing himself up from the chair. As he made his way to the door, a quiet unease settled in his chest. People didn't just show up unannounced in his neighborhood, not unless they had a reason. He reached for the doorknob, bracing himself for whatever or whoever was on the other side. When he swung it open, his breath hitched. Standing on the porch, illuminated by the dim glow of the flickering streetlight, was Samuel Whitmore. But the old man wasn't alone. Beside him stood a tall, elegantly dressed woman, mid-40s, poised, sharp-eyed, with the kind of presence that demanded attention without a single word. Jordan immediately recognized the resemblance. This was his daughter. For a moment no one spoke. Samuel, still wearing the same worn jacket from earlier, smiled warmly. "Told you I'd come back." Jordan blinked, his mind scrambling to process what was happening. He stepped aside, opening the door wider. "Please, come in." Samuel nodded, stepping inside carefully. The woman followed, her heels clicking softly against the hardwood floor. Jordan caught the faintest scent of expensive perfume, clean, understated, the kind that only rich people wore. Evelyn, who had remained seated, straightened slightly as the two visitors entered. Her sharp gaze flicked between the old man and the woman, her expression unreadable. "Mama, this is Mr. Whitmore. I helped him earlier today at the station." Evelyn nodded once, her tone polite but guarded. "Nice to meet you, Mr. Whitmore." Samuel smiled, tipping his head respectfully. "The pleasure is mine, ma'am." Jordan turned to the woman, still unsure of her role in all of this. "And you are?" She stepped forward, extending a hand. "Jamila Whitmore. My father told me about what happened today, and I wanted to meet you myself." Jordan hesitated for only a second before shaking her hand. Her grip was firm, confident. "All right," he said, exhaling slowly. "I won't lie, I didn't expect to see you two here tonight. What can I do for you?" Samuel and Jamila exchanged a glance before the older man pulled something from his pocket, a neatly folded $20 bill. He held it out toward Jordan. "First, I need to pay you back." Jordan let out a short, breathy laugh, shaking his head. "Mr. Whitmore, you didn't have to come all this way for that." Samuel's expression softened. "I know, but it's not just about the money, it's about respect." Reluctantly, Jordan took the bill and slid it into his pocket. "Well, I appreciate it, but something tells me that's not the only reason you're here." Jamila finally spoke again, cutting straight to the point. "It's not." She pulled a sleek black business card from her purse and placed it on the coffee table. The gold lettering gleamed under the dim light. Harris Energy Group. Jamila Whitmore, Executive Vice President. Jordan's eyebrows lifted slightly. He knew that name. Harris Energy was one of the largest fuel distributors in the state. Their name was on refineries, gas stations, and supply chains all over Georgia. Jamila clasped her hands in front of her. "My father isn't just any customer. He's the founder of this company, and I run the day-to-day operations." Jordan's lips parted slightly, but he said nothing. Samuel chuckled. "Surprised?" Jordan exhaled sharply. "Yeah, I can't lie, this isn't how I expected today to end." Jamila nodded. "I imagine not. But here's the thing, Jordan. You didn't know who my father was when you helped him. You didn't stop to calculate whether it would benefit you. You just did what was right." Jordan rubbed a hand over his jaw, still trying to make sense of where this was going. "I'm not sure what that has to do with me now." Jamila gave him a small, knowing smile. "It has everything to do with you. We're opening a new station on the north side, and we need a manager, someone we can trust, someone who understands that running a business isn't just about policies, it's about people." Jordan's heart stopped. For a long moment he didn't speak. He glanced at his mother, whose expression remained unreadable, though her fingers tightened slightly in her lap. He looked at Maya, who was sitting on the floor now, absent-mindedly flipping through a book, but still listening to every word. Then he turned back to Jamila. "You want me to run a gas station for Harris Energy?" Jamila nodded. "Yes. You'd have to go through training, of course, and work your way into the role. But from what I've heard, I think you have what it takes." Jordan swallowed, his mind racing. This morning he was an attendant. This afternoon he was unemployed. And now he was being offered a management position at one of the biggest fuel companies in the state. It didn't make sense. "Why me?" he finally asked. Samuel smiled. "Because, son, we need more people in this world who do the right thing when no one's watching." Jordan let out a slow breath, rubbing his face as he processed the offer. He thought about Frank, about Tyler, about how easily they had dismissed him. He thought about the bills stacked on the counter, about his mother's medication, about Maya's school fees. And then he thought about what this could mean. A steady paycheck, a future, a chance. After a long silence, he met Jamila's gaze and nodded. "All right, I'm in." Jamila extended her hand again, and this time Jordan shook it without hesitation. "Good choice," she said with a smile. Samuel clapped a hand on Jordan's shoulder, grinning. "Told you we came here for a reason." And just like that, Jordan Carter's life changed forever. The next morning, Jordan stood in front of the mirror, adjusting the collar of his cleanest button-down shirt. It wasn't new and it wasn't fancy, but it was the best he had. Today wasn't just another day. It was the beginning of something bigger. He took a deep breath, staring at his reflection. A gas station manager. He never imagined those words would apply to him. But now, thanks to a single moment of kindness, his life had taken a turn he never expected. In the living room, his mother sat by the window, watching him with quiet pride. Maya, still in her pajamas, grinned up at him as she swung her legs back and forth from her chair. "You look important, Dad," she said brightly, "like a boss." Jordan chuckled, kneeling down to press a kiss to her forehead. "I am a boss now, baby girl." Maya's eyes widened with excitement. "Does that mean you get to tell people what to do?" "Something like that." Evelyn shook her head with a small smile. "You've always been a leader, Jordan. Now the world just gets to see it too." Jordan swallowed, nodding as he glanced around their small but warm home. For the first time in a long time, he wasn't just working to survive. He was working toward a future. As he stepped outside, the morning sun bathed the street in gold. He inhaled deeply, feeling the weight of uncertainty finally start to lift. A second chance didn't come often. And this time he wasn't going to waste it. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Jordan walked into Harris Energy's corporate office for his first day of training, feeling like an imposter in a world he wasn't meant to be in. The sleek glass doors, the polished floors, the hum of professionals in business attire. It was a far cry from the grease-stained pavement of the gas station where he had spent the last 5 years. Jamila met him in the lobby, dressed as sharply as ever, holding a folder with his name printed on it. She led him to a small conference room where his training would begin. "This isn't just about pumping gas anymore, Jordan," she told him. "You're going to learn how to run an entire operation, from managing employees to handling inventory, payroll, customer service, and compliance regulations. It's a lot, but I know you can handle it." The first week was brutal. Jordan spent hours studying company policies, fuel logistics, and financial reports, things he had never needed to think about before. Every night he came home exhausted, barely touching dinner before passing out on the couch. But he pushed through. Failure wasn't an option. The second week he started hands-on training at one of Harris Energy's busiest locations. The current manager, a no-nonsense man named Carter Reynolds, put him through the ringer. "Managing isn't just telling people what to do, rookie," Carter told him on the first day. "It's knowing how to do everything yourself first. You can't lead a team if you don't understand their struggles." So Jordan did it all. He stocked shelves, cleaned pumps, dealt with angry customers, and even learned the ins and outs of fuel pricing and supply chain logistics. It was overwhelming at first, but he listened, learned, and adapted. By the third week, things started clicking. He could handle scheduling without overthinking it, resolve customer complaints with confidence, and even balance the books without second-guessing every number. The fear of failing slowly faded, replaced by something he hadn't felt in a long time: pride. One afternoon, as he was wrapping up his shift, Carter clapped a hand on his shoulder. "You're ready." Jordan froze. "For what?" Carter smirked. "To take over your own station. Jamila's already got the paperwork ready." Jordan could hardly believe it. Just a few weeks ago he had been fired, humiliated, and unsure of how he would take care of his family. The next morning he stepped into the brand-new Harris Energy station on the north side, not as a worker but as the manager. The uniform fit differently now. The weight on his shoulders wasn't just about survival anymore. As he looked around the station, watching his new team begin their shifts, he knew this was just the start. For the first time in years, Jordan Carter wasn't just getting by, he was building something. And this time, he was in control of his future. Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.